Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another in the series Curating Culture, hosted by the African Caribbean Institute of Jamaica, Jamaica Memory Bank. I'm Georgette Maglashan Miller, Research Fellow at the Institute, and today my guest is Professor Emerita Maureen Warner-Lewis. Let me tell you a little bit about Professor. Professor Emerita Maureen Warner-Lewis is a Trinidadian academic whose career focuses on the linguistic heritage and unique cultural traditions of the African diaspora of the Caribbean. Her area of focus has been to recover the links between African cultures and Caribbean cultures. She has been awarded multiple prizes for her works, including two Gordon K. and Sybil Lewis Awards, the Gold Musgrave Medal of the Institute of Jamaica, and she was inducted into the Liberty Hall of Fame of Tobago. Her many publications include Kamau Brathwaite's Masks, Essays and Annotations, Yoruba Songs of Trinidad, Trinidad Yoruba from Mother Tongue to Memory, Central Africa in the Caribbean, Transcending Time, Transforming Cultures, and Archibald Monteith, Igbo Jamaican Moravian. I take pleasure in saying that Professor Maureen Warner-Lewis also served on the board of the African Caribbean Institute of Jamaica, Jamaica Memory Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome Professor Warner-Lewis.
Thank you very much for your introduction, and I thank the African Caribbean Institute of Jamaica, Jamaica Memory Bank, for inviting me to give this presentation.
Definitely.
My talk today is on African elements in Jamaican culture. Although the Africans held captive in the Caribbean came from many different regions of Africa, they brought their ideas of whom they were, their notions of family, of community, of commerce, literature, and music, and of the worlds of the natural, the supernatural, and the divine. So I begin with their contributions to Jamaican culture in the realm of religion and spiritual beliefs. Africans believe that the material world and the spiritual world are parallel. Spirits travel between their world and the human or animal world. And in Africa and the Caribbean, it is believed that persons who have strong spiritual powers can see and converse with them, the spirits. Spirits can also visit in dreams, so that much importance is laid on the interpretation of dreams. In Jamaica, when you say to dream someone, this has a completely different meaning from standard English to dream about someone. To dream someone is a highly significant spiritual visitation, often from a recently deceased relative or close friend, while the English to dream about someone means nothing more than an ordinary image made up during sleep. The practice of tipping white rum on the ground or floor before drinking, or in a hole for a house foundation, or of throwing a small piece of food on the ground, is connected with the idea of appeasing the spirit world, a realm which can be helpful to humans, but which can also be capricious. Among the Jamaican Maroons, an altar to the supreme god stands at the front of some houses. This is a custom among the Akan people of the Gold and Ivory Coasts, and it is a symbol which consists of an upright piece of wood attached to an upside-down wooden tripod supporting a basin of water, water being the main element in which the Great Spirit lives. Masking carries religious connotations and associations. Jonkanu is the main masquerade tradition in Jamaica and is an aspect of an annual ancestor remembrance among some of the families that practice it between Christmas and the New Year. In its public aspect, because there's a private aspect, in its public aspect, it involves a small band of persons parading through the streets in the guise of characters such as cow, horse, courtier or actor boy, pregnant woman, red Indian, and so on. The main character may wear the figure of an elaborate house on his head, a house which resembled the
great house.
The great houses of Jamaica. This style of masquerade is similar to that of ancestral masquerades in many parts of West Africa, and which by names such as Gumbe and Old Mass is found throughout the Caribbean. The musical accompaniment for the Jamaican Jonkanu is drumming and fife music. This fife music is reminiscent of the flute accompaniment to masquerades in the Igbo and Calabar areas of West Africa. You want to show that? Okay. Do I show the actual area?
It's shown. Okay.
It's shown.
Okay, so we're now looking at a film showing the five or just a part in the script?
Here. You can continue.
Have you shown the Jonkanu masquerades? You showed that? Okay. Communal is one of several Caribbean rituals in which communities remember their past members. The word kumina derives from the Congo verb kamama, meaning to feel an obligation, to carry out an act or keep a promise. The promise takes the form of a ceremony during which participants dance clockwise in a ring, singing to drum accompaniment, songs in the Congo language or in Jamaican Creole. The ceremony climaxes with the slaying of a goat as a sacrificial offering to those for whom the occasion has been held. The goat is then prepared for cooking, and goat mutton and rice are served to participants and onlookers in attendance. The meal is cooked without salt, out of reverence for the spirits of the departed, whose spirit essence is incompatible with salt. This is an idea which recurs in Rastafari thought as well. It is these spirits, the Kuyu, for whom the ceremony is held. The ceremony allows the Kuyu to return and possess the bodies of living community members who, quote, go in a mile, unquote. That is spirit possession, by acquiring rigid facial features, trembling, threatening to fall to the ground, or climbing along rafters until they are ministered to by other celebrants who removed all constricting items of clothes from them and generally support them physically in their convulsions. No deity is worshipped within Kumina, but adherents recognize the supreme god or creator, whose element is thunder. As happens among Western Congo ethnic groups, this creator's name is Zambi, or Zambiampungu, which means God Almighty. Or sometimes they call him Kinzambi, which in Congo means God as an abstraction. but the latter word, that is Kinzambi, is often anglicized as King Zambi. Among themselves and in explanations, communal adepts use a number of fossilized Congo phrases intercalated or intermixed with Jamaican Creole as instructions to the spirits. Now, I should have mentioned when I was speaking about the Jonkonu that I derive the word Jonkonu from the Congo Unza Nkunu, which means the universe or world of spirits. Nza, the sound za changes to ja in the Caribbean and also in some Congo dialects, regional dialects. The meeting of Christianity and various African religions has resulted in the evolution of African Christian religions throughout the Anglophone Caribbean. And in Jamaica, there is the Zion and the Revival churches. These churches proselytize, that is, they preach, unlike African religions. Their leaders give sermons, and officers of the church may hold wayside services in marketplaces or on public transport, etc. They also use the Bible as a foundational text, and the spiritual geography of their worship buildings is patterned on that of a Christian church. They also use the shepherd's crook, the bishop's mitre, the hat that the bishop wears, and priestly vestments, which imitate Christian practice. But African influence is seen in their devising of seals or cosmograms traced on the ground in sacred places. Their use of bells to activate spiritual presences. The ritual demarcation of the four corners of the worship space, usually by spraying alcohol from the mouth. The construction of a central pole in the worship area along which spirits can descend. Their use of drums, hand clapping, and vocal hocketing, together with the sacrifice of animals by some congregations. African also is the seclusion undergone by initiates to induce trances and visions, while Muslim influence passed on by Islamicized Africans who came through the slave trade is to be detected in the importance they attach to fasting and the large turbans worn by male elders. Okay. One of the Africa-influenced religions is Pukumina, and I derive Pukumina from three Congo words. Mpu, which refers to the cap or crown which the chief wears, and which can also mean rule or sovereignty. Ku, meaning towards, to, and Mina, which means laws, Laws. Mpu, with the initial nasal vowel taken off, and which is common in the Caribbean, because in the Caribbean, the Bantu languages to which Congo belongs, met with languages, European languages, which did not use what is called in linguistics pre-consonantal nasals. That is an N or an M sound, N or sound coming before another consonant. So umpu becomes pu. Literally refers to the metallic cap worn by a chief. The word also expresses the abstraction, rule, or sovereignty. The word law recurs in various Caribbean sites in connection with the practice of African-derived religions. For instance, in Haiti, the deities worshipped are called Loa, which in French means law. Among the communal, they speak of adherence to Bongo law. In Cuba, they practice the Yoruba-derived practice of worship of the Orisha or deities. It's called regla. So you have la regla de ocha, which is the rule of the Orisha or deities. And Judaism refers to the law of Moses. That is what Judaism follows, the law of Moses. So that a religion is thus perceived to cohere around certain rules or codes to be upheld between the adherents and one or more supernatural powers. Infringement of such laws can make the adherents subject to penalties. You suffer if you don't obey the law. The penalties include the exclusion from membership and suffering various forms, whether in illness or bad luck or what, even death. An earlier Afro-Christian form of religion is Mayal. It was prominent in the 18th and 19th centuries in Jamaica. In the 20th century, it is used to describe a type of violent spiritual possession or a person possessing mystic powers. So you have Mayal man. I derive Mayal from the Congo verb yala, meaning to govern. And a Mayala is Mayala plural. The ma makes it plural in Kikongo, the language of the Congo people. Mayala are the physical representations of power, agents of a paramount chief's authority. So Mayal men are representative of the Christian God. Another religious form in the Caribbean, in Jamaica and the Caribbean generally, is Obia. It is a privately exercised area of African spirituality which centers on invocation of spirits of spiritually powerful dead persons by present-day medicine men and women, Obia men, Obia women. Their practice involves the use of herbs and other natural agents for healing. So you have the notion of a bush bath, where the person who is consulting the Obia man or Obia woman is bathed in a tub with various herbs which are supposed to have mystic medicinal powers. The Obia people also use magical oral formulae. They say certain phrases, and they also use and make amulets or charms or fetishes to protect babies and adults from the evil thoughts and actions of others. I don't know to what extent that is done here, but in Trinidad, we are
The
a
red
black,
ribbon. Oh, they wear a black one in Trinidad.
yes, beads around the babies.
In Jamaica, they tie a red ribbon or some red thing.
Well, red in these religions stands for aggression. So you're warding off illness and bad mind.
It's always Batman.
These rituals are performed with the aim of securing good fortune for an individual or bringing misfortune to others, making people successful in love, finding work, getting visas, winning court cases, and protecting people from various forms of adversity. In this religious paradigm, there is no absolute good or absolute evil. Morality is contingent. This approach to spirituality is generically referred to in the English-speaking Caribbean as obia. The religious focus is less devotional than utilitarian. It is not concerned with worshiping anybody, but rather using spiritual powers to achieve some purpose. This is a universal aspect of spirituality throughout Africa and continues to be influential in Caribbean thought and practice. All right, that's as much as I want to say about religious influence.
Okay.
I come now to speech culture. Among the African words borrowed into the Jamaican language are the following. Of course, aki, paki, which is calabash, busy, which is kola nut, unu, which is you, plural, you all you, jonkro, vulture, jonkano, as I mentioned already, abeng, which is the horn which is blown by the maroons, gungu, which is called in the Eastern Caribbean pigeon peas.
Oh.
That's pigeon peas. If you go to the supermarket and you see a tin marked pigeon peas, that's gungu peas. Bandulu, meaning underhand things.
Thought that was a Jamaican word.
It is a Jamaican word. Butu, which is for a rascal or someone not behaving in what the speaker considers a proper manner. Dege dege, meaning implying only. You give me dege dege orange or only. Terms translated into English include dormouse, neck back, foot bottom, 1-1. Idioms include it sweet me, to have a red eye, which means to be envious, no?
Yeah.
Hard ears, or stick break in your ears. Take away yourself, take it come. Hear say, no say. I know say that so and so.
Right.
Take the knife, cut it, and kill the fire. Or kill the light.
Yes.
You know that one.
I know that one.
Kill the light. From my eye there my knee. And kananapo.
Say that last one.
Kananapo.
And that one is?
That is said when a listener, who may be a judge or somebody here listening to a story on a account, says, look, I've had enough. I am ready to give my opinion, my judgment.
Okay.
You know it?
No. Pastor, you know that one? Okay.
That is very Congo. An important tool in African speaking lies in the appropriate use of proverbs for teaching children manners, for warning against impolitic behavior, and for commenting on life's experiences. Many Caribbean proverbs are translations or reinterpretations of African proverbs. Of course, some Jamaican proverbs are English, also English proverbs, but many are African. So I give a few examples. Hogga asked him Muma why her mouth so long. She say, you will grow, you will see. The higher monkey climb, the more him expose. Goat don't make sheep. When planting one dead, it shoot. Cockroach never right in front of fowl. God fan fly fit thumper tail cow. God fan fly fit thumper tail cow. Don't cuss alligator long mouth till you cross the river. Take sleep, mark death. So that's as much as I want to say about speech culture. I come now to food culture. Mm-hmm. The basis of an African meal is a starchy component. This staple food may be yam, cassava, couscous, which is now sold in the supermarkets. It's something like wheat grains. Mm-hmm. Corn, plantain, or banana. These are eaten with meat and a vegetable. The starch may be boiled, or it is boiled, then pounded with a pestle in a mortar and shaped into a ball. Well, this is called tum-tum, but I think that has kind of gone out of style now, because it's so labor
intensive.
Yes.
I was going to ask Pastor if you know that one.
Or the starch is reduced to a flour by grating and drying and then pounding the dried stuff. So breakfast porridges are made from the flours of these starches. So you have banana porridge and so on.
Cornmeal porridge.
Yes. Another breakfast food is stamp and go, called akra, which is a Yoruba word, in many Caribbean islands and in the parish of Hanover. It is a batter of wheat or bean flour mixed with saltfish, dried fish in Africa, and fried by the spoonful. The starchy flours can, however, be mixed into water and steamed and stirred to a thick paste, then shaped in a bowl into a ball. This method produces turned cornmeal. Or corn flour is mixed into a paste with water and seasonings, shaped into loaves, wrapped in banana leaves, and steamed in boiling water. This version is called dukunu or blue drawers, and it is also called tire leaf.
Tire leaf, yes.
Rundown and thick Caribbean soups are also African dishes. Among the vegetables common in Africa is okro, an Igbo name. Okro may be chopped fine, flavored, and boiled. It is often eaten with fish, both in eastern Nigeria and the Caribbean. Okra forms an essential part of pepper pot soup.
Yes.
Africa gave us yams in all their varieties. On all their varieties, as well as plantain and bananas. Dasheen, gungu, guinea corn, and ackee. It is in Jamaica alone in the Caribbean that ackee is seen as fit to eat. In the Eastern Caribbean, no one would dream of using it for food. So there are one ackee trees in various islands of the Caribbean, but they just grow and
Oh, wow.
nobody pays attention to them.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes. Now I come to economic activity. Subsistence and commercial agriculture form the bedrock of African economic life. Most of the Africans who came to the Caribbean came from areas of yam, rice, guinea corn, that is sorghum, and cassava cultivation. Fewer came from pastoral traditions involved in the rearing of cattle. Wherever they were allowed parcels of land in the Caribbean to farm in order to feed themselves, the slave plots, and have produce for market sale, Africans and their descendants grew many of the crops and vegetables which they ate in Africa, such as yam, dasheen, cocoa. Did I say it right?
Cocoa. Yeah.
Guinea corn, various types of beans, including gungu, and many leafy shrubs which they use as vegetables. They also cultivated Native American plants such as chocho, tomatoes used in seasoning, hot peppers, ginger, maize, and cassava. Their provision grounds fed Jamaica and began the market system. African women in particular have been vigorous market sellers, and they repeated this occupation in their spare time from the plantations and continued their marketing in the post-emancipation period. In the Caribbean, women hucksters or higglers, as they are called, in recent decades have engaged in regional and international air travel, buying manufactured goods abroad for sale in their respective territories. A reciprocal economic arrangement is Pardner. Pardner, also called Lenhan. In Trinidad, we call it Susu, which is a Yoruba word. And meeting, I think that meeting is a word they use in Barbados. This system allows an individual to acquire capital to invest in buying goods, a house, or for social activities such as having a wedding. A sum of money contributed by several persons is drawn down in turn from the person in charge of the partner, known as the banker. This is the end of my presentation, but we have not touched on styles of clothing, on musical instruments, dance choreography, forms of address, and melodic phrasing. I have written an article on the impact of music played in Ghana, the Gold Coast, on some of the folk songs, Jamaican folk songs. So, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Warner-Lewis. That was a very enjoyable presentation for me, a very full presentation. I learned a lot. I'm sure you, our audience, listened and learned a lot. I made notes. So I'm going to invite you now to just ask questions or to make comments that will be forwarded to me, and I will make mention of them. So while I wait on that, Prof, you said a few things that sparked my interest and my curiosity. The one that I think stood out to me the most was your explanation of pukumina. Pukumina. And I remember when I was working on the revival, Journey in Revival iconography exhibition with Dr. Henry, I saw the late Honorable Edward Seago, his suggestions, or he posited that the pukumina might have come from Spanish origin, meaning poco for a little and then mania for madness. And then now it's the first time hearing your version, which makes perfect sense. It is an African derived thing, and revivalists totally reject the pukumina name.
Yeah, there is a tendency when we who speak a certain language, a European language, when we encounter a strange word, we derive, this is what is called folk etymology. You make up an explanation that makes sense to you. So the poco and the mania, little madness,
Right.
conforms with European ideas of the strangeness to them of people dancing and, having a lot of physical movement in their worship practice.
Right.
So it seems to them like it's a little madness. But that's not the same thing happened with John
Canoe.
Crow, John
Yes.
Canoe. In Trinidad, we have a word, something like your butu, a word we call bajon, and we explain it as bad John. But it's
Etymology
really
indeed.
yes, yeah, it's really a Congo word, meaning something like a rascal. Pukumena means the sovereignty of religion, the sovereignty of laws,
Right.
the supremacy of laws.
Which makes perfect sense. And when you made a comparison about Judaism and the Mosaic law, to say that really a religion is about keeping laws. And, kumina in the way it was practiced as a spiritual practice would
Yes.
need laws.
Yes.
So I like this version of it. I like this version. So we have one person online from Culture Query. Even though you didn't get into the melodic phrasing, they're asking if there is anything you could share about it, a little about that.
No, I can't share anything about it today because it requires, I would have had to rehearse the musical phrases exactly. But the article is called Akan Echoes, I think.
Okay.
AKAN, Akan Echoes. And it is in Jamaica Journal.
We'll make note and put
Yes.
it in the comments below.
Yes, it is in a Jamaica Journal. I don't think I have that one here with me.
And these are exactly the type of things that we want to happen, where we can point students to go and conduct research.
I don't think I have that one here.
Okay.
Yes, it's in Ghana. There's a particular musical instrument called the siprawa. And the siprawa is a kind of little lute, a string. I forget how many strings it has. And it provides music for a single person, for an individual, to express himself, or usually himself, it would seem more than herself. And the melodies tend to be a little sad, a little nostalgic, and in some of the Jamaican folk songs that carry a little sadness to them. The properties
Are the
of that
same?
music, yes,
Could
come
we
out.
say, for example, Linstead Market? Would that be one of them or not? Even though they've changed up Linstead Market a bit, but Joanna Lewin was saying it was really a sad song to say that you went to the market
And you
and
didn't
not a
sell
quantity
it,
was
sell.
nothing was sold.
I don't think I have that one as one of the
Okay.
the ones. I should have looked it up before I left home, which are some of the ones. One, what
Only if Sammy would be one of them.
Jam no 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. That's one of them that I use. And I think, which is the one with the Sammy,
Right, that's a Sammy one.
Gone down a gully.
I'm here till it kill poor Sammy.
Sammy dead, Sammy dead, Sammy dead, oh. Sammy dead, Sammy dead, Sammy dead, oh. Yes, so there are a number of songs with that sort of plaintive melody, something a little sad, a little nostalgic. And there are certain features of the Siprewa music that I see repeated in some of the.
Okay. So I have another, is this a comment and a question? Saying that I understand that Africa's contribution to our society is extensive and that there are things that cannot be ignored, like the food and the words. But which of these traditions do you believe are most at risk, and what are ways that we could safeguard?
Well, I would think maybe the food.
The food?
The food thing is under a lot of pressure now from the fast food thing. And I think especially the younger generation are tending to more towards the pizza and the burger and that sort of. There's an intense Americanization of our food culture, and some of these African food types require a lot of physical labor, pounding, grate and dry and so.
Yeah.
Well, what is being done in West Africa is that I think firms are producing some of these flours and so on, so that people can more easily
make them. It's similar to the way how they're making it's like a ready-made mix for the Christmas cake. Because I was going to ask a question I ask a lot in preserving the African traditions, if some of these traditions are still observed in Africa and how have they evolved even on the continent. Because many times, as the African Caribbean Institute, we are supposed to be showing the continuities. I don't like to say retentions. But I wonder, what is it like in Africa now? If we were to show those traditions to Africans, if they would recognize it, or have they moved on?
No, they are still eating their traditional foods, I think. But as I say, manufacturing has come in to make some of the things more readily prepared. People are having less time to in the kitchen now and so on. But remember that the African countries have fairly large diasporas in England, in the States, and
everywhere.
So on. And yes, and there are places, there are shops and markets where they know they can go and buy certain things. Like you see, what we use in Jamaica here to make bami, the cassava, the grated cassava. that in West Africa, that grated stuff is mixed in with hot water and made into
Like a paste?
yes, a paste. And there are places in the metropoles where people can go and buy. They call it in Nigeria, they call it gari. You can go and buy your gari. You don't have to
Grate it and make it from scratch.
So I think they are, adapting their food practices to some of the.
And I'm glad that you're talking especially about the cassava, because most times or many times when we mention cassava in Jamaica, it's Taínos that come to mind and not the African.
Well, in a way it's right, because the cassava is not indigenous to Africa. It was taken by the Portuguese from the Americas to West Central Africa, and then it spread. It spread throughout West Africa and so on, so that cassava now became a staple, But that and maize did not originated in the Americas, taken by the Portuguese. There was a lot of trade going on, because if you look at the map, you'll see that places like the Congo and Angola are exactly opposite to Brazil. Exactly opposite. So it's a straight thing, not even coming up a little north like to us, but straight.
And I believe the largest diaspora of Africans are in Brazil, right?
Yes. So, the Africans were being traded, shall we say, even from the 14th century, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th century.
That's a long
So
trade.
it's a long
trade.
Yeah.
I have another question here about spirituality, asking how do communal revivalism and Mile interact or overlap in terms of African cosmology, spirit work, and because sometimes, especially as the observer, we can't tell the difference. Everything is just spirit.
I would prefer not to be an authority on that, but the people who the mothers of the queens in communal, I think some of them are also involved in what might be called obia. But that is not the communal ceremony itself. This is private consultation. But because they are seen and understood as having, special, strong, spiritual, mystic powers that they have cultivated over years. Because what I have tended to notice is that people who become prominent in those religions begin from teenage, somewhere in teenage, they get this spirit and they cultivate it, or they are made to
nurtured in some way.
Yes, and so that they end up having a lot of knowledge of herbs, certain, because obia is knowledge. That is what I think it means, mystical knowledge. So I think that there is overlap of personnel between one religion and another.
And especially since it is not the worship of any deity, the practices would overlap.
Well, in Mile, as in Zion and Revival, they do, I think, worship. They do worship the Christian God.
And a pantheon of others.
And then they also have other levels of
Right.
spiritual beings that they
All right.
worship.
Well, we're winding down now, and I wanted to talk about dreams. I think you mentioned that dreams. So in Jamaica, when we talk about dreams, it's not when you go to bed and have some vision of something, but when somebody dream you, it's a spiritual person, ancestor, someone who has passed that come back. And did you say that this was for special, it was like special powers to people? Did you say it like that? Because what I want to comment on is how many Jamaicans I know of, and family members that somebody dreamed them. So I don't think it is now in the realm of just the Obia person or the Mile man or any special.
No.
It is a Jamaican
It
thing
is
now for
any-
Jamaicans to get a dream. Once you lose somebody, them dream you.
Yes, that is open to all.
Yeah.
And as a young person growing up in Trinidad, and taking public transport, you could always depend on somebody to be narrating some dream that they had.
Publicly.
Yes, and asking for interpretation and all that.
Asking for the interpretation.
Yes. So the discussion of what it could mean, but certainly in Trinidad, and I wouldn't doubt that it is here. When somebody dreams of another person, a person, especially somebody who is dead, it means that the dreamer must do something, have some ceremony, or make some sacrificial act that would appease that person who came to them in the dream. They want something.
Okay.
They want something. And so that people who have that kind of spiritual sense, a sense of not only being here, but, people like that would come in this room and say that they saw spirits in here.
Okay.
And that sort of person has to make some either a ceremony, which is what Kumina would be held for, either a ceremony or a setup type occasion or something to satisfy the desires, the request of someone, which is why I derive Kumina from Kamama,
Right.
which means, because Miss Queenie, who I interviewed more than once, she always referred to a Kumina ceremony as a duty.
Okay.
That was the word she used, duty. When I have a duty. So that is
There's always a demand.
A demand for appeasement, satisfaction of some kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, definitely in the spiritual practices, we see Africa in Jamaica. My final question that I would want to ask, or a comment, is we sometimes when we talk about Africa in Jamaica, we're talking about past Africa. In what ways do you think that modern Africa is being reflected or is impacting Jamaica now?
Well, I hope through trade and investment and things like that. I think one or two of the banks in the Caribbean have been extending themselves to West Africa. And I think that, well, the business about air travel has been mooted for a long time, but the economics of it is the problem.
Though it wasn't when we got here, right?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't then because it was part of a big trade. You put investment in ships, you put investment in crews, you put investment in food supplies, you put investment in human beings,
Yeah.
and so on. It was a big business. So how has it been reflected now? Well, I see a number of our singers, our pop singers, going to Africa
Definitely.
and having some impact there. And one or two African singers are coming here, Burna
here as
Boy
well.
and so on.
Right.
So it's picking up. It's picking up. And as we have said, Africa itself is quickly modernizing and so on. So you have different levels of society. You have people who are in deep rural areas, and you have those who are living in huge cities with 10 million people or
Right,
20
big
million people,
metropoles, yeah.
and so on, and who are also traveling abroad and coming back to the continent with new ideas and so on. So a lot of things. I was last there over 50 years ago. A whole lot has changed. A whole lot has changed.
I know one of the more obvious things are like the fashion, and in terms of the acceptance, I mean, ideas that I had about Africa growing up have changed totally.
Yes.
Right. And with Nollywood, African movies, I remember in high school, African movie was a big thing in Jamaica. It certainly changed the perception of the suffering Africa, whether it was places where our ancestors came from or not. But the idea of Africa being a civilized, desirous place, or having things that we are proud of in terms of their presentation, their communication, and having things that we as Jamaicans cannot or do not have right now, you know. So it's things like that that are impacting, and especially through globalization and the internet, we can look for ourselves and see and not take secondhand information through the media. So I think that has contributed to the perceptions of modern Africa in Jamaica now.
Yes, and the TV stations have been doing their bit, I would say, you know.
Definitely.
The BBC, CNN, and so on have been showing new... The new face of Africa.
Yes, there is a program like that shows you inside Africa.
Yes, inside Africa. BBC has focus on Africa every day of the week, of the working week, and so on. So you're seeing a more varied aspect of Africa rather than just famine and
so on. Well, definitely, this has been a very good presentation, Professor Warner-Lewis, and I'm sure our guests online can share the same sentiments. And we're very glad to have you. We may have to have you another time to get into the other aspects.
We get into the music.
Yes, the music that they're asking about, this phrasing, you know, because that more than anything else, I think, has stuck. If it's either as an echo in the bone or rhythm somewhere in us that we've not lost. So we thank you for staying with us on Curating Culture. We don't have many updates for you. The ACI JGMB office remains closed until further notice. We are hoping to give you something brand and spanking new come January. And we're inviting you all to come out and see us when we reopen. Also continue to follow us on our social media pages and on Facebook. We're on Instagram And we are, I'm always being told by my producers where to look. We're on Instagram. And we are on X. And where else are we? On Facebook. And where else are we? And YouTube and TikTok. Anywhere else? And our website, definitely. And we also want you to stay tuned, especially our faithful mailing list followers. In the new year, we're hoping to launch our student research hub, where all our high school and tertiary level students can come and get help with their research and their SBAs. I did mention that we're being hosted today by Liberty Hall, the legacy of Marcus Garvey, located at 76 Upper King Street. Please come by and visit their library as well. So until next time, join us again at Curating Culture, where we curate to educate. Thank you.